What's up, guys? Max Scoville here for IGN. With me is Brian Altano.
Hello, Max Scoville.
Hello, Brian Altano.
What brings me here today?
Well, we're going to talk about Resident Evil Revelations 2, and more than that, the entire Resident Evil franchise. So pretend for a moment that I don't know anything.
Okay, that joke is too easy.
Well, that's mean.
I'm sorry.
Just tell me about Resident Evil.
Absolutely. Okay, so early on, the series was about a group of people who belonged to STARS, which is the Special Tactics and Rescue Service. They fought against companies that made crazy bioweapons that also happened to be monsters. Resident Evil 1 was a horror survival game with guns and puzzles where a group of people are trapped in a spooky old mansion with genetically engineered virus-infected zombie monster creature people.
So like a science fiction Scooby-Doo kind of.
Exactly like Scooby-Doo.
Let me take care of it!
So basically there's this company called Umbrella and they're doing these crazy experiments in a place called Raccoon City.
We should probably note there might be some spoilers in here.
Okay, so one of the Umbrella guys is named Wesker, and he basically triple crosses everybody like 4 times, which is like 12 tuple cross.
You're just a slave of Umbrella.
His whole deal is that he wants to steal research and then sell these bioweapons to all these different companies.
What a terrible human being.
Just the worst. There isn't a good thing about him. Okay, so Resident Evil 2 and 3 are about Raccoon City and how there was a zombie outbreak there. But they get annihilated when the US president calls for an experimental non-nuclear missile strike. So that's the end of that. Code Veronica X, on the other hand, came after and is about all these really screwed up families behind Umbrella.
Sure, I'm not human anymore, but just look at the power I've gained.
So after that is Resident Evil 4, which is one of my personal favorite Resident Evil games. And Resident Evil 4 is not about Umbrella. It's not about Raccoon City at all. It's a lot more action-oriented. It's third person, sort of over the shoulder, free movement, and it takes place instead of a mansion or instead of a sort of corporation, it takes place in a small town. And you're dealing with not Umbrella Corporation members directly, but a cult.
Then what's 5?
So Resident Evil 5 is actually, it's the origin of the viruses that you see throughout the Resident Evil games, and how there's a new one that Wesker wants to use to start a new race of fabulous monster people. Also, a point of note that's very important in Resident Evil 5 is that Wesker dies. Chris Redfield actually has to punch a boulder, and Wesker falls into a volcano and is drowned by lava, which can kill you.
It sounds like that's a spoiler, but you could just be messing with me.
Suck on this, Wesker.
Your time's up, you son of a bitch.
So now there's Resident Evil Revelations 1, which takes place between Resident Evil 4 and 5. So it's like prequel, sequel.
Okay.
And it's about the BSAA, which is the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance. So since the world has gone to hell with all these monsters running around, the BSAA is like a response team sent to deal with them. In Revelations, you play as Jill Valentine, who is also a main character in Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 3. The game mainly took place on a ship and was more of a throwback to the old survival horror games in the series.
Excellent. Now, Resident Evil Revelations 2?
So Resident Evil Revelations 2 takes place between Resident Evil 5 and 6 and stars 2 characters that showed up in past Resident Evil games, Barry Burton and Claire Redfield, as well as 2 supporting characters, Moira Burton.
Reporting for duty, Ms. Redfield.
And Natalia Corda.
Now, refresh my memory. Who are Barry and Claire?
All right. Barry Burton first appeared in the first Resident Evil as a STARS member.
Chris and I go back a long way.
That was being blackmailed by Wesker to do his bidding in order to save his family. It's just horrible.
Oh, don't blame Barry for everything. I hear that his better half and 2 lovely daughters will be in danger if he doesn't do everything I tell him to.
So Barry ends up finding out that Wesker was bluffing, so Barry knocks out Wesker, which is something I've wanted to do my entire life, and redeems himself.
Forgive me.
No, you're not to blame. It's Umbrella and Wesker.
He also invented the Jill sandwich line from the original Resident Evil, which is about Jill possibly being crushed by something and becoming like a Jill panini.
Classic Barry.
I was almost a Claire sandwich.
Barry, tell everyone that story.
So Claire Redfield is the sister of Chris Redfield, and she first appeared in Resident Evil 2, where she searches Raccoon City for her brother Chris throughout the series.
Chris, I have to find you.
Okay, and now they're in Revelations 2?
Yes. So Barry's trying to find Claire and his daughter after they go missing.
And his daughter's Moira.
Yep, you got it. Claire and Moira are kidnapped and they wake up on an island. Moira Burton and Natalia Corder are your co-op companions who are needed to solve puzzles and make your way through the game. Moira travels with Claire and Natalia goes with Barry throughout the whole game. You can switch between the two, or you can play split screen with your bestest friend, like me, your buddy.
Oh.
We'll get into the characters in an upcoming episode, as well as the gameplay mechanics and the enemies you'll face on the island of Resident Evil Revelations 2.
And of course, Resident Evil Revelations 2 is an episodic game. The first episode is out this week, so you can go check that out and keep up to date with all that stuff. And we're going to have more episodes of this series right here out along with each subsequent episode of Revelations 2. And if you'd like to find out more about the world of Resident Evil, which, as we've discussed today, is very complex and twisty and turny and also spooky and scary, we have all that information right here on ign.com. Brian, thank you for chatting.
Max, thanks for having me.
Awesome. See you guys later.